Ladies and gentlemen, it is almost October, which means we need to talk about horror films. And today I'm giving you 10 underrated horror films you should definitely check out this October season. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Number 10, The Deep House. So yeah, The Deep House. This movie is about a couple scuba divers who, find out that there's an abandoned house underneath a lake. So they grab their scuba gear, they go into the lake, they go down to the bottom, and there it is. There's a house at the bottom of the lake, and wouldn't you know it, it's fucking haunted. But yeah, The Deep House. I think this movie's pretty damn cool. I think it's a very unique idea. It has some really cool visuals. Just the visual of a haunted house underwater and like the divers going into this haunted house and like spooky stuff's gonna happen and it's all underwater. It's such a cool concept and cool idea. This isn't gonna be everybody's cup of tea, and I totally get that. But for me, just like from a visual standpoint, from just a concept standpoint, it's something that we've never really seen before, like a haunted house film underwater. And it's filmed underwater. I just thought it was a cool idea, and there's some cool jump scares, just some creepy, moments in the film that I won't spoil here. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid and underrated, found footage haunted house movie. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, if you want to see what a haunted house underwater looks like, then look no further than The Deep House. Number 9, Starve Acre. Yeah, this is a movie that came out, a few months ago, and I've heard almost literally no one talk about this film, and I think that that's a crime, man. I think this is a really underrated, solid horror film. It stars the best doctor, Matt Smith, and no, don't argue with me, he's the best. And it's about him and his wife that, go through a tragedy, and they're trying to grieve, and they're grieving in their own ways, and it all escalates into a really batshit crazy ending, an ending that will be just like, you'll see things you've never seen before. It gets violent, it gets insane. I love the ending. It's all culminating to that ending. It's one of those like slow burn horror films where you kind of have to be patient. If you don't have the patience for slow burn horror films, or slow burns aren't really your thing, you could probably skip this one. But for those of you who love slow burn horror films, and I would say people who actually like the movie The Witch, if you love the movie The Witch, I think you're going to feel right at home here. There's a lot of similarities. So yeah, I just want to throw this one out there. It's one of the most underrated horror films I've seen this year in a packed year of horror, and I would say give this one a shot. Number 8, Session 9. Session 9, yeah, this is a movie that I've gone back to over and over again. I remember seeing this when it first came out. This is like one of my dad's favorite horror films, and for good reason. This movie is creepy as hell. It's about a bunch of cleaners who go into an abandoned insane asylum to try and clean it up, and a character finds some audio tapes and listens to them, and things start to go a little spooky. And man, those audio tapes, every time I watch this movie, those audio tapes just like give me the chills, man. It's some pretty effective stuff. And just some like overall creepy moments, like just the idea of being in an abandoned, building by yourself in the dark, and you're hearing noises and you're seeing things. Like that's such a scary concept. And this movie kind of like really brings the A game when it comes to that, and people walking through hallways in the dark and they're seeing things, and it's just like just a lot of creepy moments in this film. And I think this movie is criminally underrated. This movie does kind of pop up every now and again on other people's lists, but I just want to keep singing this movie's praises. I think it's fantastic. If you have not seen Session number 9, I highly recommend this one. Number 7, Lake Mungo. Lake Mungo. So I actually watched this for the first time fairly recently, and this movie was a treat. And I'm surprised that more people aren't really talking about this one. I mean, I can kind of see why, but I think this movie is really engaging and engrossing. It's basically it's a found footage film, but it's presented as like a true crime documentary. So if those of you are watching who love your true crime stuff, I highly recommend this one. This one actually does feel like a true crime documentary at some points. Some of the acting is a little shaky here or there, but for the most part, it really does suck you into its story and its mystery. And man, there is a creepy ass moment in the climax when we get to Lake Mungo. I won't spoil you what that is, but let's just say there's some camera footage that is found, and what is on that footage is like skin crawly. It is so effective, and like the whole movie is building up to this moment, and it sticks that landing where you're just like, holy shit. Very creepy, very unsettling, great atmosphere with this one. A lot of twists and turns that I was not expecting. You think one thing is happening, and then the movie kind of pivots and says, that's not what's happening, but then we kind of come back around to it again. I don't know. It's a very clever, very effective, very underrated found footage horror film. Please check this one out. Number 6, The House on Sorority Row. Yeah, I had to include a movie from the 80s. I had to. And like, dude, there's so many like cheap kind of corny 80s slasher movies you could choose from, but this is one of my favorites. If you have not seen House on Sorority Row, you have to watch this movie. This movie is awesome. This is a movie that, like, one night I was kind of scrolling through the movies. I'm like, I don't really feel like watching a serious horror film. I just want to watch something kind of dumb that can turn my brain off. So I just happened to land on this one, turned it on, wasn't expecting much, and man, I was like sucked into this movie. It is cheesy, it is corny, don't get me wrong. The acting is very questionable, but man, the story of this movie is so damn good. It really sucks you in. It's like these women who are being tormented by the, I don't even know what you call them, the sorority hall monitor lady. I don't know what they're called, but she's kind of terrorizing them a little bit and picking on them. So they come up with this plan to pull a prank on her, but that prank goes terribly wrong, and the rest of the movie is them dealing with the consequences of what happened with that prank. And man, it is so much fun. Like, most of the movie takes place at a party. Like, they throw a party towards the end of the movie, and like things are happening to this character and things are happening to that character. There's drugs involved at the end. People are running around getting stabbed and murdered. Like, it is such a fun 80s slasher. Again, it's silly and ridiculous, but man, it is a movie that I was not expecting to get sucked into and actually enjoy. But man, this movie is criminally underrated. Please go check this one out if you have any interest in like 80s or 70s B horror slasher films. If you have not seen this one, please, for the love of God, check this one out. Number 5, Haunt. Haunt. What a joy this movie is. You know, a group of, you know, I think it's Harper and her friends stumble upon a haunted house in the middle of nowhere on Halloween night, and let's just say it doesn't go well for them in this haunted house. Doesn't go well. And just some friendly advice to those of you out there: if you go to a haunted house and you have to sign a waiver to get in, don't do it. Please don't do it. But yeah, this movie is cool, man. It's a cool concept. It's like everyone's kind of experienced this who's gone to a haunted house, where it's like, you know, you're going through the haunted house, someone's chasing you, or someone jumps out at you, and it's just like, oh, thank God it's all fake. This movie is like, okay, what if it wasn't fake? What if the people inside the haunted house are actually trying to kill you? They're actually serial killers. That's what this movie is about. It's, you know, a group of friends who go into a haunted house, and there's a bunch of masked men running around, putting them in awful situations and kind of taking them out one by one. And it's fun. It's just a fun slasher film, good kills. There's one that I think the highlight of the movie involves the back of a hammer underneath someone's tooth, and it doesn't go very well for that character, and it's really gory. I love the reveals of when, you know, these masked killers take off their mask. It's just almost like, holy shit, I was not expecting the person to look like that. And it almost brings on an extra layer to like the creepiness of who these people actually are, and it's never really explained. But yeah, I think this movie is a lot of fun. If you're looking for a good old-fashioned slasher film where a bunch of annoying teenagers get killed in brutal ways, Haunt's for you, baby. Number 4, When Evil Lurks. So yeah, this movie came out last year, and for those of you who like body horror, for those of you who like gore, for those of you who like violence, When Evil Lurks is for you. Yeah, this is probably one of the most insane, violent, unsettling horror films I've seen in a while. It goes to some pretty dark places, and you're going to see some really dark, uncomfortable things, some of which happen to children. So if that scares you away, that makes complete sense. But if you're curious, please check out When Evil Lurks. It's a cool concept. It's a movie that actually has world building, and like it's a little different than our reality, which I was not expecting. I was just like, okay, this is a straightforward horror film, but no, there's some extra layers to the movie that builds a world, kind of like a John Wick in a way. I'm not saying people are hitmen, but I'm just saying that like you think it's taking place in like our world and our reality, but it really doesn't. It's kind of like this different thing, and I wasn't expecting that. And there were some like really cool rules. This is a movie where characters have to abide by these rules, and if they don't, bad shit's gonna happen. So yeah, if you love cool gore effects, if you love, you know, violent and unsettling imagery, When Evil Lurks is should be up your alley. Number 3, We Are Still Here. Yeah, out of every movie on this list, I struggled with putting it on there because I do know that this movie has a kind of a big following, and, you know, to add this one to underrated, you know, I do think that's rated pretty high. But at the end of the day, it's like when this movie came out, I remember being on such a high on it, and for those who saw it at the time, they were on a high on it, and it does pop up every now and again on underrated lists. But for whatever reason, every time I go to these lists every year, this movie kind of just disappeared. Like for a while there, 2016, 2017, 2018, this movie was on like every must-watch horror film, but then it kind of just went away. So I thought, you know what? it, I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing We Are Still Here back because this movie is fantastic. I just rewatched this again the other night and it still holds up. It is a phenomenal horror film. It is one of those things, like, the ghost of this movie is so creepy and just scary. It's not just like a pale person with like eyeshadow. They're like burnt to a crisp with like big white bright eyes, and I don't know, it's just so weird. And what I love about this movie is it's like, you know, you think it's just going to be ghosty stuff, doors being slammed, you know, like jump scare type stuff. But then we get to the climax and it just goes balls to the walls with gore. It is so violent to the point where I think like every wall in the house is covered in blood. It's like, it's kind of unexpected. You don't expect the movie to kind of get as violent and crazy as it does, but it goes there. And that last 10 minutes is such a fucking blast. It is so much fun. It's one of those climaxes where I'm kind of like grinning as I'm watching it because I'm just like, this is so batshit crazy. I love this. But yeah, a cool story, very, very underrated low budget horror film that came out in 2015. If you have not seen We Are Still Here, please check this one out. It is fantastic. Number 2, Ghost Watch. All right, it's Ghost Watch time, baby. Everyone's favorite BBC made-for-TV movie that scared the shit out of people back in the early 90s. Yeah, this is another kind of found footage-esque film where a news crew stays the night at a haunted house. We watch the events unfold. I would say this movie is for the people who saw Late Night with the Devil this year. If you saw Late Night with the Devil and you had a great time with that movie and you have not seen Ghost Watch, this should be right up your alley. This is actually kind of a good companion piece to Late Night with the Devil. There's a lot of similarities. Great acting here. I don't know who that like news anchor guy is, the older guy, but he is like, that's some of the best acting I've seen in like a found footage movie maybe like ever, outside of Blair Witch. Blair Witch is, you know, a masterpiece when it comes to acting, but man, that guy was so convincing. Like you almost feel like you're watching an actual TV show. But yeah, a good slow burn, found footage, you know, things start to happen that are really small until we get to the ending where shit just gets wild, and it's a lot of fun. And you know, this movie I actually find to be charming, which I know is like, calling a horror movie charming is probably the last thing you want to hear, but for those of you who've seen it, I think we can agree like there's a charm about this movie. It's hard to put into words, but it's a movie that actually like sucks you in from the beginning. I was watching this the other night with my partner, and she was working on her laptop, and throughout the movie she kept tilting her laptop down and like getting sucked into the movie. This is a movie that really does suck you in, and like once you're in for the ride, buckle up because it's a lot of fun. And my number 1 pick for the most underrated movie you should watch this Halloween season is Deadstream. Deadstream. This movie is awesome. This movie is awesome. This is easily the most fun out of all the movies I picked. This is easily the most fun. It's funny, it's scary, it's engaging. It is a fantastic horror film that I'm just shocked that not a lot of people are talking about it or have watched it. It's essentially a live streamer who does a live stream where he goes to a haunted house and tries to stay the night, and it's great. It is so entertaining, and it's clever because it's a live stream, so like the movie puts the live chat in the top right corner, so it's like anytime something scary happens, like, oh, he sees something scary, he runs into the closet, shuts the door, and like the live stream's going, and it's like, you know, he's like interacting with his audience as like things are happening around him. I don't know, it's such a clever use of the live stream format and the found footage format. And I know I'm making it sound kind of silly, and at points it is pretty silly and it is funny. It is a movie you will laugh, but it is, don't get me wrong, this movie is scary. This has very tense, scary, insane moments where you're just like, cool gore moments, cool, like, you know, gross out moments. Like, this just has everything, you know. It's a complete package, and it's a shame that no one has really watched this movie. This should be number 1 on your watch list. It is so much fun. If you love to laugh, if you love to have a good time, if you love to be scared, then Deadstream should be the number 1. All right, ladies and gents, those are my 10 picks. Now, obviously, those are just 10 movies I picked, not necessarily at random, but those I just thought would be the most fun to start with. I mean, there are so many underrated horror films. I could probably make a series of this. There are so many. If you have any underrated horror picks that you watch every season that maybe not a whole lot of people have known, please hit me up in the comments. I'm always looking for new horror films to watch, so please let me know what you think of my list. Let me know if there's any other underrated films that you like. Please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts, and until the next time, I will see you on the next one.